Hello and thank you for watching Erin and Drew's movie reviews. My name is Drew.
My name is Erin.
And would you like some orange juice?
It's like Neo before me. Sorry. That's
Oh,
no.
oh, well, I can, that's anyway. That's kind of a running gag for some reason in this film. But today, we're going to continue talking about the class of 1981, and today we're talking about Superman 2. Which I believe was, I might be a little off on this, but I think it was the second biggest film of the year that year. Do you know what number one was?
In 1981?
Yep.
No.
They're making a sequel to it, like, as we speak.
No, I
Someone
didn't.
really old.
Someone really old.
Yeah. Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh.
I think that was the number one film of
Nice.
1981.
Like, I don't know many of the releases of 1981. I mean, I do after you tell me what they are.
Yeah.
And the only one I really know is Arthur, because my sister was born in 81, and the number one song on her birthday was Arthur's theme.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
If
And that's
you get
really,
caught between the moon and...
that's really the only reason I know that that movie came out in 81.
Yeah. That's a good song. I actually like that song a lot, but you don't hear that in Superman 2. No,
you don't.
You hear, like, really truncated versions of, like, old funk songs on jukeboxes, but are kind of changed slightly for copyright reasons, I think, so. Or not.
And remixed versions of the original soundtrack.
Yeah. We should probably clarify that what we're going to be reviewing is actually the theatrical version of Superman 2. There was another version of this film released in 2006, but we'll talk about that afterwards.
Okay.
Okay. So right now we're just going to be talking about the first film, or the first version of it. But yeah, Superman 2 picks up after Superman the movie, of course. And there's apparently some kind of a hostage situation going on in Paris.
And we know that it's France because they have outrageous accents.
Yeah. Well, I think this was filmed on location.
Was it? Because they sounded like they were in a Monty Python sketch.
So they were basically British actors doing
Yes.
French accents. Well, it probably was. But, yeah, scenes. And of course, Superman's like, oh, I have to go take care of that.
Yeah.
And he does his thing. He flies over
You
there.
sent Lois over there? I have to go save her.
Yeah, because she was spying on there's a terrorist situation at the top of the Eiffel Tower. Why? I don't remember.
Reasons? They're terrorists?
Yeah, well, at this time in the world, man, I wish this fly would go away.
The fly.
Yeah.
He's very excited to be here.
Yeah, he's a big Superman fan.
It's like, oh, you're talking about my favorite movie.
Yeah. And, but at that time in the world, I know those things were very on point with the news because there was the Iran hostage crisis going on and those kind of things in the late 70s, early 80s until Reagan released them, I think, in 81, actually. But, yeah, so the elevator, she's like, the terrorists are using this lift in the tower, the tower elevator, and she kind of slides in underneath under these little beam things, and she's kind of spying on them and trying to get the dope and what's happening and all that.
Because she's the best reporter.
She's the best reporter, supposedly. And something happens where it goes all the way to the top, and then something with the bomb causes the elevator to free fall. I don't remember what. One of the bombs detonated prematurely or didn't get connected right or something exploded.
A MacGuffin happened.
Yeah.
And
so anyway, lift goes zoom, Superman comes zoom, pushes it up here, lets her off on the floor. I think this is your floor, man. In perfect Superman fashion. I believe
what a Boy Scout.
Yeah, I know. And so, the bomb's still on the elevator. Oh, okay. So he just basically pushes it up, all the way out the top, into outer space, and boom.
Fireworks.
Yeah. There's a problem with that, though. Well, yes, he does save the day, but in the first film, if you remember at the beginning of the film, actually they recap it in the beginning of this film also, is that on his home planet of Krypton, there are these 3 villains who supposedly were the worst villains ever, at least on that planet. And they are put into this thing, a prison called the Phantom Zone. And they're ejected into outer space. Basically, since they didn't have a death penalty, it was kind of like you're trapped in here forever.
Yep.
And you can't get out.
Yep.
Unless there is a very giant explosion of the most powerful, like nuclear explosion, could maybe break it open. And this bomb basically
That's exactly what
explodes and lets the criminals out. And so they kind of filter their way, make their way back to Earth. Well, they via the moon. They see the moon like, oh, that looks interesting. And they kind of harass some astronauts there. And that's where you find out that Sarah Douglas's character, Ursa, is obsessed with... She would have made an interesting character in the movie Office Space because she's obsessed with flair. You know, I don't remember how many pieces she's up to, but it's like everywhere she goes, she's like, she finds the astronaut, and the astronaut's like, "Whoa!" She's like, "What's this?" It's a woman walking towards him with no spacesuit on. And he's like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Who or what are you?" And she's like, "I'm a man." Like, who would ask me this? And he doesn't get. And then she sees like the NASA patch or mission patch or something on the astronaut's outfit. It's like, oh, I'll take one of those. And he starts running away. And of course, the moon has what, 1/6 of the gravity of Earth, roughly?
Roughly.
Yeah, and so he's not moving very fast, where she just kind of and comes back and just rips it off, and he loses all his oxygen and drop kicks him into the something, outer space.
The lack of atmosphere.
It was an impressive kick, though.
It was.
I will say.
It was.
Yeah, so they basically, and she is basically a minion of General Zod, who on Krypton was supposedly, him and his cronies were jailed for treason, or trying to stage a coup and take over the government and that kind of thing. So yeah, they sent him away. And him and this other guy who doesn't talk. He's just huge.
Yep.
And just kind of grunts a lot for some reason. Basically kill all the astronauts. It's like, ooh, they're mad, but they don't quite know the limits of what they can do yet. Like, ooh, I just crushed this thing like an eggshell. How can I do that? And they're slowly kind of figuring out what's going on. That, oh, there's a yellow sun here, and that's where we get our power from. And so if we go to this planet, Earth, we're going to be like even stronger. So that's what they do. And meanwhile, back on Earth, what?
I'm having fun. A fun time of you explaining this movie because you get very detailed.
Oh,
no, it's great.
Oh well, I've seen it a lot, so
I really like it. It's almost better than watching the movie.
Yeah. Well, anyway, how long of a show do we got? Oh, I better speed this up a little bit. Anyway, there's another scandal going on that they send Lois and Clark to. That the Daily Planet, apparently, it's not quite as exciting as like nuclear bombs, but apparently there's some really dumb story about like resorts and hotels taking advantage of married couples or how do I want to say that? Newlyweds.
Newlyweds.
Yeah, because they charge them much more money than they would other people and that kind of thing. So you're going to go undercover as a married couple, and we're going to get the story on this. And which they do, and so they send them to Niagara Falls, and which is, who cares? It's basically just a plot setup so Lois can figure out who's Superman, or that Clark is Superman.
Yep.
And there's an incident where there's this kid who's being naughty and like crawling over the rails like, hey mom, look at me, and then he slips and falls, of course, so he has to go change into Superman, fly, save the kid, and then take off again. And she turns around and he's like, he's never around when Superman's around. Yeah.
It's
Here's your-
weird. They look exactly alike,
Yeah.
but they can't be the same person.
He comes back.
Clark wears glasses.
He comes back. Oh, here's your orange juice. That's another. For some reason, that's a running gag in the movie is orange juice because there's a scene earlier in the movie where Lois is making orange juice because she's trying to quit smoking and be healthy, and this is not the last time we'll hear about orange juice in the movie. But
This whole movie brought to you by the Orange Juice Council.
yeah,
Drink your orange juice.
there was no Krispy Kreme donuts back then, so I couldn't. But there is a sidebar. There is a lot of product placement in this movie, not by people you would necessarily think for a Superman film, like Marlboro cigarettes. There's like huge Marlboro signs, and a lot of all throughout the movie, which is really weird. It just tells you how.
It was the 80s when cigarettes could be advertised to kids.
Well, a lot of this was still filmed in the 70s, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually I think Superman feels guilty about trying to hide all this, so she sets up this situation where she throws herself in the river or the lake or whatever that is.
She throws herself
in the rapids.
She
She basically throws herself over the ring, so that would force him to change and save her and blah, blah, blah. Well, he doesn't do that. He kind of very clumsily runs down, follows her down the river, and finally he kind of nonchalantly heat beams like a branch to so she can float to the as something to grab onto, and it's a very, I don't know how you call it, slapsticky physical humor situation, which is whatever. And so they're kind of drying off in the hotel room, and he accidentally trips and falls, and his glasses go flying into this fireplace. And he thinks, oh, I got to put these back on my face. But what he also doesn't realize is he's sticking his hand into a fire to get his glasses back.
He may be a
So it's
superhero.
basically a no-win.
Not
If
that
he
smart.
doesn't stick his hand in there, the glasses melt and his face is exposed. But if he doesn't, so what do you do?
Yeah.
So she figures it out. And like, oh, I got a million. Oh, you are Superman. I got a million questions to ask you. And then he finally kind of relents. I'm like, okay, fine. Let's just go to my place.
I'll tell you everything.
Yeah, and I'll tell you everything you
Fly
want
with
to know.
me.
Yeah, and they fly away and all that kind of thing, and then he's feeling happy, and then his mother in this version says, well, if you want to live with her, you can't really be Superman anymore,
Right.
so you have to give up all your powers, which he does surprisingly willingly.
Let's just be human for a bit.
Yeah. While that's going on, though, the three bad guys show up on Earth and start causing lots of trouble. Wreaking havoc.
Just so much.
She's taking flair from the sheriff. She takes it from a guy at the White House. Because
Have fun items. I want them.
Because and then there's Zod, who needs to be worshipped because you will kneel before me because I am your leader. Because he's a military. He's like, not just a military. I mean, he's like really sees himself as a religious figure. So because you must kneel before me.
Kneel before Zod.
Yeah, and finally he figures out who is your leader, and then they make their way to the White House, and he's like, "Is there no one on this planet to challenge me?" and all that kind of thing. And they keep hearing finally they eventually do get to the president, and he's like, I'll do this. I'll kneel before you to save the Earth, but there is one man who will never do it. And then he's like, who is that? And where is he? And he's like, I wish I knew. Because this whole time they've been causing trouble, he's nowhere to be found because, well, this is before Wi-Fi. And I don't think the...
And the only good reporter is
And the only good reporter has no Wi-Fi. And there's no flat screens at the fortress, so he... just doesn't know about it. He doesn't know this is going on. So
it's like, what?
He's too busy.
Bad things are happening?
He's distracted. And things don't quite go right for him shortly after that because of course, he can't fly anymore, so they have to drive. Rent a car or whatever they're doing. And they, let's stop for dinner at this really kind of sleazy truck stop with I hate to see what the bathrooms look like. And let's stop for a hot dog or something. And then this truck driver guy hits on Lois, and he's like, hey, you're in my seat. And then he realizes, like, oh, I don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
And he kind of...
He's
not
I'm
used
now
to
a nerdy guy.
yeah, he's kind of not used to parking his pride like that, but he does it anyway, and he ends up getting beaten up. But somewhat unfairly, because the guy did push him into some glass while his back was turned. So, it wasn't super fair that way. But yeah, now he's bleeding all over the place from the glass, and he got punched and all that, and then the guy is like, leave, and he's had enough. And then on the TV, he sees Zod shows up, and his face just gets 2 times the size. He's like, oh, it's finally happened, and I really screwed up here. So.
I was like, oh, this is the worst time for me to get rid of my powers.
Yeah. Because
oops.
Plot convenience.
Plot.
Yeah, and then he has to find his way back to the fortress, but he can't really fly there, so he's like hitching rides, walking through.
Can't really get an Uber service to the Fortress of Solitude.
He's like walking in like knee-deep snow. So he does get back there, and he finds this green crystal, not kryptonite, but it's what kind of built the fortress in the first film. And he just kind of looks.
Why is it not kryptonite? I know that it's not kryptonite, but why is it not kryptonite? It's a crystal that came from Krypton. Why is it not kryptonite?
And it's green.
Yeah. And kryptonite comes in many colors.
Well, yeah, but primarily, most of the time it's green.
Most of the time it's green.
Yeah, but that's for another thing.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of cut away, and the villains show up at the Daily Planet because Lex Luthor gives them information that, hey, this lady likes to talk to Superman, so if you want to get his attention, you might want to talk to her.
Yes. Also, Lex Luthor broke out of jail.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to talk about that. Meh.
It's fine.
With his little black box. It's just about ready.
It's just about ready.
Just about ready. Yeah, and so they show up, and Lois Lane did come back from her little expose on the newlywed thing, and it's like, ooh, is this... They don't know who Superman is or what he looks like, and they think it's Jimmy Olsen. It's like, this is the son of Jor-El, and he's like,
Poor Jimmy.
Yeah. And they're like, no, just talk to her, and he'll show up, and
she knows.
She knows
everything.
Things. Yeah. And he does show up, and with no real explanation of how he gets his powers back or whatever. But and then they have this big street fight, which is kind of amusing, and you see a lot more of the aforementioned product placement, like giant Coca-Cola marquees and Marlboro cigarette trucks, and
got to pay for this movie somehow.
Yeah. And an ad for the play Evita on the side of a bus, which Madonna would ruin like about 20 years later.
Hush your mouth.
What?
Never mind.
Oh. Well, fine. I've seen the play, so. So yeah, they kind of have a little tussle with some. It was actually a pretty decent fight, I think. Like using flagstaffs as baseball bats and that kind of thing. So. And then eventually, he gets pinned down under a bus for a while, so everybody thinks Superman's dead.
Yeah.
And then the people are like, "Let's go get him!" And they're like, they're grabbing anything they can, and they're like, they're all walking towards the building. All they do is just, when they just, they're just flying backwards. And I should mention that this version of the movie was directed or credited to Richard Lester. And Richard Lester kind of made his name on like lighthearted comedy things. He's not really a superhero or action director. So a lot of like the unintentional humor comes from him, like with the guy carrying the ice cream cone and it blows into the guy's face next to him. Or the couple carrying the Kentucky Fried Chicken. There's another product placement. It just goes, and the people's toupees blowing off. That kind of thing. And the guy on the roller skates, he's getting blown backwards. Yeah, there's tons of that in this movie. Well, eventually Superman, he crawls out from under the bus because he got swept under the bus. Sort of. And then he flies away, and people are like, oh, he's a chicken. He's running away. And then the villains go back to the Daily Planet, and Lex Luthor's like, hey, I know where Superman lives. So they kind of track him down there, and there's a weird, what would you call it, funhouse thing set up, where there's like multiple Supermen and like a
mirror room.
Yeah, and like, I'm gonna take this.
Yeah, like a funhouse.
I'm gonna take this S off my chest and throw it at you, and you're gonna get wrapped up in.
What exactly was
that? Well, they actually mentioned this there's a direct reference to this in an episode of Family Guy, where Peter's like, in Superman 2, what was that thing that he threw off his chest at the bad guy? You know, it just made no sense.
No. But it's good fun.
Yeah, sure it is. And then while they are there, he's trying to use he knows that the thing that took his powers away, this little antechamber thing, is there still. And he's trying to, Lex Luthor's trying to butter up to him. He's like, hey, they just dragged me along. I don't really like these guys. And then Superman's like, well, see if you can get him into this thing over there, because that'll take your powers away. And then, of course,
Superman goes trying to trust the bad guy.
Yeah, so
really?
Being a weasel, he just says, yeah, don't go in there. It's a trap because it'll take your powers away. And then they basically want to turn it around and make him go in there. Otherwise, they're going to kill Lois Lane, who they have with them. And
because they needed leverage.
Yeah, they got leverage. And so he goes in there, and all the lights come on, and he comes out, and he's like, finally kneel before Zod, because that's what he really wanted him to do, because this is the son of the guy who put him in jail and all that kind of stuff. And he does, and then all of a sudden, you hear bones cracking, and and then he throws him like all the way across the room with like nothing. Then they figure out, oh yeah, so he switched it around so he could protect himself, and then took their powers away. Like, okay.
There's a brain in there somewhere.
Yeah,
Yay.
so he that actually worked. So yeah, the villains kind of go bye-bye and all that. And now Lois Lane is
crevices.
Yeah,
Weird.
But now Lois Lane is sad because she knows that her and Superman's thing is over pretty much. And they have like a little morning after scene where it's like, oh, I still kind of like you and all that kind of thing. And then somehow, then this is another stupid thing in the movie where he has this ability to inflict amnesia upon Lois Lane through kissing her and making her forget that he's Superman.
Yeah. He's got a weird modify memory spell going on.
And all of a sudden she went, hey, can you go get me a cheeseburger at 9 o'clock in the morning? I'm like, oh, sure.
Yeah.
You know what? Because people like that at 9 o'clock.
Why not?
And he goes back to the same diner that he was at before. He's like, oh, I think you're sitting in my seat. And he proceeds to like push him across the lunch counter into a pinball machine. He's like, oh yeah, sorry about that. Hands him the money. And probably and a great ending though, flying the flag back to the White House and saying, sorry, I let you down. I won't do it again. And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But now, when this movie was being filmed, there was a lot of controversy around it because the guy who made the first film, right, Richard Donner, got fired. Basically for going over budget or taking too long or whatever. But so in that time, he finished all of the first film and shot probably more than half of the second film. But they didn't like what he was doing going over budget, so they hired this other guy to come in, and he recut a lot of that footage and reshot some of it and added a lot of his own stuff to it. So in 2006, they released what was called Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut. And there was a lot of things that were supposed to be done originally with the movie that ended up getting changed a lot, and some of it didn't make any sense. Like in the beginning, the rocket that was in the first film that he threw into space, that's what released the villains. So that made the Paris thing kind of unnecessary.
Yep.
and it put all of the Marlon Brando footage back in the film. So basically, anything you see in the theatrical version of this with the mom was supposed to be Brando.
Right.
And because of that, the scene where he gets his powers back after he gets beat up actually kind of makes sense. And it's actually a very, very good scene if you've never seen it. It's very good. And there's some other things that are put back in there. And so, yeah. And they get rid of, like, the S thing and the stupid stuff.
The silly things.
All that stuff is gone in the next version. And 2 was originally supposed to end with him turning the Earth around and it puts the villains back in the zone and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's the big differences between the 2 versions. So.
Yes, because changing the timeline of Earth changes the timeline everywhere else in space.
Of course, because movie.
Because, yes.
Yeah.
Plot.
Because plot, yeah. All right. Well, Erin, the student has brought you the paper. We're just grading the theatrical, correct? Okay. What grade do you give the theatrical version of Superman 2?
I give the theatrical version a solid B, but I give your one-man show an A-.
Okay.
It was great.
Sure. Well, I've seen it a lot. This is one of my favorite films. Of going back as far as I can remember, this is one of the first movies I actually remember seeing in a theater. So,
nice.
Yeah. It was either this or Star Wars, or maybe the Muppet movie. I don't know. It was one of those.
I think mine was Jurassic Park.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I certainly like this. I love this. I don't think it's a perfect movie by any stretch, but I love it. I give it a B+. I think there's some silliness in it that doesn't need to be there, and I think if I were to grade it on the Donner cut, I'd probably bump it up to an A-. I think it's a little better, but the down part about the Donner cut is it takes out some of the good stuff of this version.
Yeah.
Which they took out some, like, why'd they take that out? But it's pretty close, I would say.
They need to do.
They both have their equal amounts of good stuff and bad stuff, but
expert cut.
But if you look around in certain places, there are a lot of fan cuts of both versions into one film. So yeah, that's Superman 2, another member of the class of 1981. What will the next one be? I don't know.
Who knows?
But if you are watching our show on YouTube, we have a little thing, like button down there. If you like what you see, go ahead and click that. We'd really appreciate that. So this is...
Tell your friends.
Yeah, tell your friends if you haven't. Tell 2, tell 5, tell 10.
Share it around.
Share it.
Share us on Facebook.
Yeah, please do. Until next time, I am Drew.
I am Erin.
And you don't have to kneel before us.
No, I want you to kneel. Kneel before me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do it.
Anyway, we'll see you later.
Cable television is the swellest thing they got.